I'm about to show you how to get a newly bought Nintendo Switch up and running. Start by picking up the screen and figure out which edge has this port. And just know that this is the bottom edge. With that in mind, slide the Joy-Con controllers into place. They slide in from the top. Make sure you feel them snap into place. And the end result looks like this. With my guidance, you'll be doing the majority of this setup directly off the Switch's screen instead of a TV screen. And just to make sure the battery doesn't die on us during that process, grab the power adapter, which looks like this, and plug the small end into the port that's on the bottom edge. It doesn't matter which way the connector is oriented. Then plug the other end into an electrical outlet. It will likely instantly come on and show a couple of logos and land on this language screen. If it didn't automatically come on, press the power button for a few seconds. It's located right here on the top edge of the system. We're going to be going through a bunch of screens, selecting preferences and some other things. The screen is touch sensitive, so if you want, you can use that to interact with these screens, or you can use the buttons that are on the controllers. In that case, the left joystick moves things around on the screen, and if you look at the bottom right, you can see what the other buttons do. So highlight your language and hit A to say OK, which moves you on to the next page. Now do the same by selecting your region. Now you have to accept an agreement. If you wish to read it, highlight View End User License Agreement and hit A. As you can see, it's very long. If you did choose to read it, you can hit B to go back when you're done reading it, and that takes you to the previous screen. You need to highlight that box that's surrounding the word Accept and hit A to checkmark it. Then move down and select Next. It's now taking you through the internet connection setup. Now, if you want, you can hit X and you can skip this part of the setup and you can always come back and set it up later. But I'm a big proponent of connecting game systems to the internet for a number of reasons. For one thing, you can run firmware updates. This can improve the functionality of the system and possibly make it run better in certain games, but it also allows you to update the games themselves. It can make them run better. It can add new features to the games. And finally, if you're going to buy any games from the Nintendo eShop, you have to connect to the internet. If you do want to go through with it, go ahead and select the name of your network and hit OK. It'll then ask you for the password to get into that network. As you're typing it out, just know that pushing straight down on this stick will give you all caps. And you can also select this part of the keyboard to go to the symbols if those are part of your password. So when you're done with all that, select OK on the bottom right. It'll test your information to see if it can connect, and if it does, it'll say successfully connected. Select OK. Now you're going to select your time zone. Some people can kind of get mixed up on this screen. You basically want to find a city that's located in your time zone. In my case, it's going to be New York. It's now asking if you want to connect to the TV. I recommend you select later because I'm going to guide you through connecting to a TV in a few minutes. We're just not going to do it at this point in the process. Now what it's going to have you do is remove both of the controllers. You're going to press this button and slide it out by pulling it up, and you're going to do that for each one. The screen will change and it'll tell you to hold them like this. Select Next and press A. I recommend you slide them right back in. As long as they're attached to the game system, they will charge. So that's why I like to keep them on the sides as long as possible. Select OK. Now we're going to build a user. You have to build at least one. If there's multiple people in your household, you can set up each one as a user to play their own games on. That way their progress in the game is specific to them. But we're going to hit Next. and we're going to select create new user. There's also an option there to import data from another console. I'm going to have a separate video on how to move data from one console to another. And when that video is done, I'll put a link in the description below. But basically, if you're making this Switch your new go-to Switch and you want to transfer things over from the other Switch, you can do most of that process by selecting import user data from another console. But for this video, we're going to select create new user. You're going to pick an avatar that represents that new user. It has some on the front page here, but if you go down to more options, you'll get access to a lot more to select from. Select character/me, and that'll give you the long list of pictures to select from. You can also change the background. And when you're done, hit OK. And then click OK again. You gotta give that person a nickname. It can only be up to 10 digits. And then click OK. And then click OK again. The first option on this screen is link a Nintendo account. You're linking it to the user itself. If you already have an account, or if you need to create an account for the first time, the option you should select is link a Nintendo account. However, whenever I select that, it tells me I have to run a system update. And we cannot do that system update at the same time as we're doing this initial setup. So what I'm going to have you do right now is bypass the account linkage, and I'm going to show you how to do it in a later step after we run an update. It's possible that you didn't get that error message, but just so you're in sync with this tutorial, just go ahead and do exactly what I'm doing. When you get this error, just click OK and it'll take you back a screen. Select later. It gives you an option of setting up additional users. If more than one person in your household is going to be using it, you can go ahead and select add another user. It'll take you through the same process of selecting a picture to represent that user and giving them a nickname. I'm not going to set up any additional users, so I'm going to select skip. This is basically an advertisement telling you that there's a Switch online that you can sign up for, but this is not the place to do it. We're just going to hit next. And right here, you have the option of setting up parental controls. For now, I'm going to recommend you skip this because it can be a very long process to go through. It entails downloading an app on your phone and configuring the app and applying it to certain users. But near the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to get back to it if you want to set that up. So for now, select skip. It's now telling us that the setup is complete, but it's not really. There's some other things I'm going to show you. For now, hit the home button and it shows you right where it is right there. I'm now going to take you through the process of running a system update because that was keeping us from setting up a Nintendo account earlier. You have to create a Nintendo account in order to buy things in the eShop, like games and stuff like that. Now, if you chose earlier to not set up the internet connection, you cannot do this process. You'll just have to eventually set up the internet connection, or if you just want to go offline forever, you don't have to do this step in the setup. But if you do want to do it, go to System Settings. It's an icon that looks like a sun. And then on the menu that's on the left, go all the way to the last option where it says System. And select it. And then the first option on your right is System Update. So go ahead and select that. If you get this screen, select Update. It's telling us it's going to restart the system. Click OK. It's rebooting. That takes us to this screen, and this is basically a lock screen. You'll be seeing this a lot as you use this system. You have to hit A and then any button 3 times in a row. Now I'm going to take you through linking a Nintendo account to the user that you set up so that you'll be able to make purchases off the eShop if that's something you want to set up. Once again, we're going to go under System Settings and we're going to hit down until we get to Users. We're going to highlight the photo that represents the user and hit A. And we're going to select Link Nintendo Account. If you already have an account, select the first option there. If you already have an account and you like to sign in with your smart device, pick the second option. But if you don't have a Nintendo account, select Create a New Account. That's the one I'm going to be taking you through. It doesn't want you to set up an account using the Switch itself. It wants you to do it either on your phone or your PC. So select Send User Creation Instructions via email. It'll ask for your date of birth. Select OK. Now it'll ask for an email address. I do not think it'll let you use an email address that is already set up to be used on another Nintendo account. You can only have one Nintendo account per email from what I've read. So enter the email address, and when you get to the @ symbol, you'll need to hit this key right here to switch the lettering to symbols. It'll send the email to the device. And right here, you can see that I'm at my PC and I've received the email. They have a lot to say in the email, but the most important part is the link. I'm going to click that link and it's going to start the account setup process. The first thing it's going to ask me is if this account is for myself or is it for a child. I'm going to pick for myself. Then I'm going to fill out this screen. That first field is for nickname. If you want, you can make it the same nickname that you used when you set up the user, or you can just make it totally different. So fill out all those things. And then there's a check mark at the bottom here that you want to uncheck unless you want a bunch of commercial emails from Nintendo. The second check mark, though, is to confirm the user agreement. Click on that to check mark it, and then click Submit. It's created your account. You want to click the red button that says Display Confirmation Code. It's going to give you a 5-digit code. You then need to go back to your Switch. And if you happen to have this lockout screen again, go ahead and hit A and then any button 3 times. But it should be on this screen that says an email has been sent. Select OK. And then enter that 5-digit number that you just got from creating your Nintendo account. Select OK. It's going to think for a second, and then it's going to ask you to confirm whether or not you want to connect that Nintendo account. Select Link. It's giving you a reminder of everything you get from linking your account. And one last thing I want to mention before I take you through the process of hooking it up to the TV is the parental controls. I told you earlier I would come back and show you where to do that part. Go to System Settings, and then scroll down to Parental Controls. There's a video there that explains what it does, and then if you select Parental Controls Settings, it'll start you through the process of setting those up. So now I'm going to take you through the process of hooking it up to your TV if you want to play on your TV. Some people are happy just playing it while holding it in their hands, but the first step to getting it on your TV is to get the dock out, which looks like this. Now I have the edition that's white. If you bought an older model, your dock might be black, but the process will be pretty much the same. Flip it over, and on the back there is a door, and that door you can just pull off and set to the side. If you still have your Switch plugged in, unplug it, and then take that AC adapter, which looks like this, and plug the small end into the port that says AC adapter. It's off to the side of those words there. And then you can just pull the cord through this little gap here. And make sure it's all the way in. Then take the other cord that came with your Switch, which is an HDMI cord. It has 2 identical ends, so just take either one of those ends and plug it into the port that's labeled HDMI out. There is a third port here for LAN cable. If you want to use a wired internet connection, you can plug in the Ethernet cable in that port. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use the Wi-Fi. Then put the back on. And make sure those cords are tucked into the gap there. You can also kind of tuck the cords this way if you want. set the docking station up. The part that says Nintendo Switch is the front, so keep that side facing you. Then plug in the AC adapter. And then that HDMI cord needs to plug into the TV. Your TV likely has more than one HDMI port. Sometimes they're on the back, sometimes they're on the sides. You should also notice a number next to each port. I recommend you plug it into the lowest of those numbers of any of the ports that don't already have something plugged into them. You might have a Roku box in your HDMI 1 port. In that case, plug your Switch into the HDMI 2 port. Then make a mental note of the number that corresponds to your port. In my case, I put it in my HDMI 2 port. Next, we're going to drop the Switch into the dock. Bear in mind that the Switch has a port on the bottom. There's a connector at the bottom of the dock that slips right into that port. And when you're dropping it in, you want the screen facing you and the buttons facing you. It's possible that your TV will automatically detect the Switch and it'll appear on the screen, but more than likely, you will need to tell your TV to read the signal coming from the HDMI port that you're using. So since I'm using HDMI 2, I need to toggle over to that port using the remote. Every remote has this kind of button. On my remote, it's a plug symbol, but your button may have a different symbol, or it could be called input. Either way, you need to find that button and keep hitting that button until it selects the input that you're using. So with HDMI 2 highlighted, I'm going to hit the enter button on my remote, and it has switched to HDMI 2. If for some reason you still don't see graphics on the screen, make sure your Switch is actually on. It may have fallen asleep during this process, so press the power button and hold it down for a couple of seconds. Once again, that power button is located right here. So it's appearing on my screen, and the fastest way to get playing is to take the Joy-Cons out, just slide them out by pressing that button on the back, and then holding them like this. I can hit A and any other button 3 times, and I'm ready to play. One last thing I want to go over is the possibility that the TV is not sizing the Switch signal correctly. If you look at the bottom left of my screen, it shows a picture of the 2 Joy-Con controllers. They're kind of cut off at the bottom, so the screen is kind of zoomed in. Luckily, it's an easy fix. You just go to System Settings, and then TV Settings, and then adjust screen size. So it's at 100% now, but watch what happens when I hit down. That percent is going to lower, and I'm better able to see the arrows in the corners of the screen. So what you want to do is adjust the screen until you can see the entirety of all those arrows, and then select OK. So that's the end of this tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a great day, everybody.